In the cold void of space, amidst the floating ice rocks of the Oort cloud, a beacon of forgotten technology flickered to life. Captain Alara Miles' heart raced as the dormant systems of the warship Vanguard hummed with energy, piercing the silence that had enshrouded it for over a century. The ship's awakening was a ghostly echo from Earth's mightiest era, a relic reborn, and with it, a burden that now lay squarely on Alara's shoulders. How could she steer humanity back into the galaxy's fold after 100 years of self-imposed exile? The weight of this question was as suffocating as the vacuum surrounding her. As the Vanguard gradually powered up, the control room bathed in a soft, blue glow from the awakening screens, illuminating the faces of her crew, each marked with a blend of awe and uncertainty. The ship was a behemoth of ancient Earth's engineering, its walls lined with alloys no longer produced, its systems a hybrid of mechanical strength and advanced AI that predated the digital renaissance of the surrounding systems. The air was thick with the scent of ionized particles, a sharp reminder of the ship's prolonged dormancy. Captain Miles moved through the ship with determined strides, her boots echoing in the empty corridors that once housed Earth's finest. Her gaze fell on the faded insignias along the hallway, each emblem a story of glory and despair, their colors dulled by time but defiant in spirit. She reached the main deck, where the vast viewport offered a panorama of space speckled with distant stars and the looming quiet of the Oort cloud. "Systems report," she commanded, her voice cutting through the low murmur of her crew. Her first officer, Lieutenant Harrow, approached with a datapad, his hands slightly trembling from either the cold or the resurgence of a ship thought lost to legend. "Captain, all primary systems are online. Secondary systems at 65% and climbing. However, the communication array is still offline. We can't send signals out. Not yet," Harrow reported, his eyes not meeting hers. Alara nodded, her mind racing with the tasks ahead. The galaxy they were about to re-enter was not the one the Vanguard had left behind. It was a cosmos reshaped by alliances and wars, technologies and betrayals. And Earth? Earth was now a mere whisper in the galactic winds, its stories turned into myths. How they received the Vanguard would shape the destiny of their planet. "Prepare to initiate the first phase of Operation Resurgence," Alara instructed, her voice steady but her heart heavy. "Chart a course to the edge of the Oort cloud." It's time they remembered who Earth was. The crew nodded, each turning to their consoles, their movements a dance of urgency and precision. As the Vanguard stirred from its slumber and began its slow, deliberate journey towards the fringes of known space, Captain Miles watched the stars, her resolve hardening. This was more than a mission. It was Earth's cry for resurgence, a plea woven through the fabric of time. As the ship moved forward, slicing through the cosmos with newfound purpose, Alara felt the shadows of the past converge with the promise of the future. Here in the void, surrounded by the remnants of a war long ended and a peace uneasily maintained, the Vanguard was a symbol of Earth's forgotten might and a beacon of its hopeful return. The Vanguard was awake. And with it, so too was Earth's legacy. The Draconis Federation Command Center buzzed with a cacophony of alerts and data streams, the air thick with the scent of ozone and the low hum of overworked processors. Admiral Zan Creel stood before the massive holographic display that dominated the room, his eyes scanning the fluctuating symbols and star maps that represented the galaxy's delicate balance of power. The recent activation signal from the Oort cloud had not gone unnoticed. It was a ripple that threatened to swell into a wave, disturbing the uneasy peace he had fought hard to maintain. Zan was a man carved from the trials of war, his face marked with lines of determination and eyes that burned with a ruthless ambition. He wore the uniform of the Draconis Federation with an air of undeniable authority, the insignia on his chest a testament to battles won and enemies vanquished. His fingers tapped a rhythmic beat on the console, a physical manifestation of his racing thoughts. "Admiral Creel, we have confirmed the origin of the activation signal. It's Earth, a relic warship, class unknown but considerably advanced," reported Commander Lyrivas, his trusted aide. She was a sharp contrast to Zan, with her calculated calmness and analytical gaze, traits that made her indispensable in the chaotic realms of space strategy. Zan's lips curled into a frown. Earth, a silent player for centuries, now dared to stir the cosmic waters with its ancient titans. How did they expect to maneuver the political minefields after such a prolonged absence? He mused aloud, his voice a low growl. Do they think the galaxy will simply make room for their return? Perhaps they are not aware of the current alignments and treaties, Lyra suggested, her eyes not leaving the data pad as her fingers swiped through screens of information. Or they are, and this is a calculated show of force. Zan nodded, considering the possibilities. Earth's isolation had been a strategic withdrawal, not a defeat. They had avoided the galactic wars, the alliances formed in desperation, and the tech races that had redrawn boundaries. Their return could not be a mere whim. It had to be a planned chess move. Prepare a dossier on the current galactic leaders and recent treaty violations. If Earth wants to play, we'll need to anticipate their moves, Zan commanded, turning to face the star map. And get me a direct line to the Galactic Council. It's time we discuss the Earth situation openly. The Council session was a spectacle of political maneuvering, with representatives from various star systems voicing their concerns and speculations over the newly awakened Earth fleet. Zan watched from his seat, his mind dissecting each word and its underlying intentions, his presence commanding yet unobtrusive. When it was his turn to speak, Zan rose, his voice resonating through the chamber. Ladies and gentlemen of the Council, the reemergence of Earth's war fleet after a century of silence is not a trivial matter. It is a disruption that could unravel the threads of peace we have so diligently woven. We must consider a collective response, a show of unity to prevent any unilateral moves by Earth or any other system that sees this as an opportunity to redraw the map of control. The room fell into a heavy silence, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Some members nodded in agreement, wary of the unknown capabilities of Earth's forgotten fleet, while others whispered, fearful of escalating a situation that was still shrouded in mystery. As the council adjourned, Zan Creel's mind was already racing ahead. He would need to prepare his fleet, just in case diplomacy failed. Earth's first moves would be critical, and he intended to watch them closely. With a silent command, his ship, the Dominion, set a course parallel to the Vanguard, shadowing the ghost of Earth's past as it ventured into the tumultuous present. In the vast expanse of space, two old powers were stirring, their shadows long and intertwined with the stars themselves. The bridge of the Vanguard was alive with the glow of screens and the urgent voices of its crew, plotting courses and analyzing data streams that flowed like digital rivers into the nerve center of the ancient warship. Captain Alara Miles stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the holographic star map that displayed a web of connections, trade routes, diplomatic boundaries, and potential flashpoints. The galaxy had transformed into a complex tapestry of allegiances and rivalries, far different from the simpler times recorded in her ship's aged logs. As the Vanguard cut through the velvet blackness of space, Alara pondered her next move. The initial shock of their emergence had rippled through the galactic community, and now, every eye was watching, waiting to see what Earth intended to do with its resurrected fleet. Captain, we have several incoming communications from the neighboring systems. They're curious, some are cautious, but all are watching us closely, reported Ensign Tali, a young officer whose expertise in xenolinguistics made her an invaluable asset in these delicate times. Let's set up a diplomatic channel. Broadcast our intentions for peace and cooperation. We need to lay the groundwork before we can even think of re-establishing Earth as a galactic power, Alara decided, her voice steady but her mind racing with the potential implications of every word they were about to transmit. The Vanguard's communication array, now fully operational, beamed out a message of peace to the nearest systems, a missive penned by Alara herself that spoke of Earth's desire to reintegrate and contribute to the galaxy's prosperity. The responses were as varied as the stars themselves, some warm, others tepid, but all crucial in their own right. Meanwhile, Admiral Zan Creel monitored the Vanguard's transmissions from the bridge of the Dominion. Each message was intercepted, analyzed, and filed away. His expression was unreadable, but his mind was a whirlwind of strategy and speculation. Commander Voss, ensure that our agents are embedded in the key systems. I want updates on how each leader reacts to Earth's overtures. We cannot afford blind spots in our intelligence, Zan ordered, his gaze never leaving the star map that now included a tracking overlay of the Vanguard's path. Back on Earth, political leaders and military strategists gathered in secretive meetings, stirred into action by the sudden potential to reclaim their place in the cosmos. The Earth Defense Council, reactivated along with the fleet, was a group of seasoned diplomats and war veterans who shared a mix of excitement and trepidation about the path ahead. Alara has taken the first step, but we must be ready to support her. The Vanguard is but one ship, albeit a powerful one. We need a plan for economic and military expansion, stated General Horn, a grizzled veteran of Earth's last interstellar conflict, his voice echoing in the high-ceilinged council room. As Earth prepared its next moves, the Vanguard approached the Zeta Reticuli system, a key junction for trade and diplomacy. Alara knew that the way they handled this first interaction would set the tone for future engagements. A large, sleek spacecraft bearing the emblems of the Zeta Coalition approached, its commander, a well-respected diplomat named Soren Lee, eager to meet with the captain of the legendary warship. Captain Miles, I welcome you on behalf of the Zeta Coalition. Your message of peace has been received, but there are concerns about the stability this return may bring, Soren began, his tone diplomatic yet cautious. Alara met his gaze, her response measured and sincere. Commander Lee, I understand your concerns. I assure you, Earth seeks only peace and a place within the galactic community. Let us prove our intentions through actions, not just words. Their meeting, held aboard the Vanguard, was a dance of diplomacy and mutual assessment. Soren was impressed by the sincerity and the advanced technology of the Earth ship but remained non-committal, his final judgment reserved for the actions that would follow the words. As the Vanguard resumed its journey, leaving behind the Zeta Reticuli system with a tentative promise of further talks, Alara felt the weight of her responsibility. Each system they approached, each negotiation, was another move in the grand galactic chess game. And Earth was still many moves away from checkmate. The holographic maps in the war room aboard the Vanguard flickered with the light of distant stars, casting elongated shadows on the walls. Captain Alara Miles stood before them, her expression resolute as she traced potential routes for their approach toward Earth. The homecoming was to be a triumphant display of Earth's renewed presence in the galactic community, but instead, they were met with silence, a dense, looming blockade orchestrated by Admiral Zan Creel's fleet, the Dominion, now enveloped the Sol system. Captain, they've formed a barricade. It's not just us. They're cutting off any traffic in or out of the system. It's a full siege, reported Lieutenant Harrow, his tone laced with urgency. His hands moved deftly over the console, pulling up real-time images of Draconis warships stationed in a grim perimeter around Earth. Alara's jaw tightened. This was no mere display of power. It was a stranglehold meant to isolate and suffocate Earth's nascent efforts to reassert itself. Harrow, signal all decks to battle stations. We're not going to let this provocation go unanswered. Prepare for a tactical response, she commanded, her voice echoing off the cold metal walls. The crew of the Vanguard moved into action, the ship itself humming with a renewed purpose as weapon systems came online and defensive shields powered up. The air was thick with tension, anticipation mingling with the recycled oxygen, as every officer and technician readied themselves for the confrontation ahead. Meanwhile, aboard the Dominion, Admiral Zan Creel watched the Vanguard through the high-resolution screens that lined his bridge. So, Earth shows its fangs, he muttered to himself, his gaze cold and calculating. Prepare to engage, but hold fire. Let's see if they're foolish enough to strike first. The space around the Sol system became a chessboard of maneuvers and countermaneuvers. Alara initiated a series of feints and probing attacks, testing the blockade's strength and searching for vulnerabilities. Each move was met with a calculated response from Zan, who was determined not to give the Vanguard an opening. Captain, there's a communication from Earth, Tali announced suddenly, her voice a beacon in the tense atmosphere. It's the Earth Defense Council. Alara paused, her strategy momentarily suspended. She moved to her private chambers to take the call, the screen lighting up to reveal General Harn, his face lined with both concern and defiance. Alara, you must not engage directly. We're organizing a diplomatic summit to resolve this blockade peacefully. The Council believes there's still a chance to avoid war. Alara weighed her mentor's words against the stark reality outside her ship. General, I respect the Council's decision, but we're sitting ducks out here. Zan Creel isn't known for his patience or diplomacy. We need to be ready for all possibilities. Back on the Dominion, Zan Creel dismissed the notion of negotiations. This is a show of strength, not a debate. Keep them contained, he instructed Commander Voss, who nodded, her expression unreadable. The stalemate continued, with the Vanguard and the Dominion circling each other like celestial predators. The tension in the region escalated, drawing the attention of neighboring systems and the galactic media, all speculating on the potential for a new war, a war that could either solidify Earth's return or spell its final downfall. As the days passed, the blockade tightened. Supplies and morale aboard the Vanguard began to dwindle, the isolation wearing on even the most seasoned crew members. Alara found herself walking the ship at odd hours, her presence a reassurance to her crew, her resolve an unspoken vow to see them through this crisis. In a desperate bid to shift the balance, Alara planned a daring maneuver. If we can't break the blockade with force, we'll do it with guile, she decided, outlining a plan to feint a distress signal from a different sector, hoping to draw away part of Zan's fleet. The gamble was risky, the stakes high. As the vanguard prepared for the ruse, Alara looked out into the stars, a silent prayer escaping her lips, not for victory, but for the wisdom to navigate the tumultuous path ahead. The siege of the Sol system was not just a battle of ships and shields, it was a test of wills, where the decisions of a few could determine the fate of many. The vast expanse of space near the Sol system, once a beacon of tranquility and exploration, was now a theater of impending conflict. The Draconis Federation's blockade, led by Admiral Zan Creel aboard the Dominion, held firm, a formidable wall of metal and might encircling Earth. Captain Alara Miles, aboard the Vanguard, faced the enormous task of breaking through without escalating into full-scale war. Her plan to divert part of the blockade using a feint had been set in motion, and now, every second drew them closer to its execution. The Vanguard's bridge was tense, the air charged with silent apprehension and the low hum of the ship's engines at full readiness. All systems are go for the diversion. Launch on your command, Captain, Lieutenant Harrow reported, his voice steady despite the palpable tension. Alara nodded, her gaze fixed on the tactical display. Execute the plan, she ordered crisply, her mind racing through the scenarios they had meticulously prepared for. In the void, a distress beacon activated, sending a coded SOS that suggested a catastrophic reactor failure on a civilian transport several light minutes away from the blockade line. As predicted, Admiral Creel, ever cautious, dispatched a squadron to investigate, thinning the blockade's defenses just enough for Alara to make her move. Now, initiate the breach protocol, Alara commanded. The Vanguard, along with two smaller frigates, surged forward, their engines flaring brightly against the dark backdrop of space. They targeted the weakest point in the blockade, where the Draconis ships had just vacated. Aboard the Dominion, Zan Creel watched the unfolding maneuver with a mix of irritation and respect. They're making their play. All units, return to formation and prepare for engagement. This ends now, he ordered, his voice a calm contrast to the flurry of activity around him. The space around the Vanguard came alive with the blaze of ship thrusters and the chilling whine of charging energy weapons. Alara's crew worked with precise coordination, their actions honed by countless simulations. The Vanguard weaved through the incoming fire, its shields glowing under the strain of repeated hits. Shields at 76% and holding, Captain. We're almost through, called out the shield operator, his eyes glued to the fluctuating readings. Alara stood firm, her hands clasped behind her back, her eyes scanning the forward monitors. Focus on the breach point. All power to forward shields and prepare to fire all forward weapons on my mark. As they approached the critical point, the Vanguard unleashed a barrage of advanced torpedoes, specifically designed to disrupt shield integrity. The Draconis ships, caught off guard by the intensity and precision of the strike, scrambled to realign their defenses. Captain, we've breached their line. Path to Earth is clear, Harrow exclaimed, relief mingling with triumph in his voice. Alara allowed herself a brief smile, but her relief was short-lived. Maintain course and speed. Get us to Earth, and be ready for any counterattacks. This isn't over yet. Indeed, the battle was far from finished. Zan Creel, though tactically outmaneuvered, was quick to regroup. All units, converge on the Vanguard. Cut them off before they reach Earth, he commanded, his eyes burning with a mix of fury and admiration for the audacity of Alara's tactics. The final leg of the journey became a desperate race. The Vanguard, battered but unbroken, surged towards Earth, pursued by the relentless forces of the Dominion. Behind them, the stars were obscured by the flashes of cannon fire and the debris of destroyed ships. As Earth's blue-green visage came into view, a sense of awe filled the bridge of the Vanguard. Home was within reach, but so was the enemy. Prepare for orbital insertion and alert Earth's defense grid. We're not safe until we're under their protection, Alara instructed, her voice a calm beacon amidst the chaos. The battle raged on, but now under the watchful eyes of Earth's defense stations, which powered up with a readiness that had not been tested in over a century. The Vanguard streaked into Earth's orbit, a fiery herald of both warning and hope, pursued by the remnants of Creel's forces. As the first Earth-based defensive missiles streaked past them to engage the Dominion, Alara finally allowed herself to breathe. They had returned. They were home. And the galaxy now knew that Earth was awake, its forgotten warships a testament to its resilience and renewed resolve. The battle among the stars would be remembered not just as a display of military might, but as a declaration of Earth's unwavering spirit. The skies above Earth were ablaze with the remnants of the battle as the last of the Draconis Federation ships retreated, beaten back by the combined might of the Vanguard and Earth's suddenly vigilant defense systems. Captain Alara Miles stood on the deck of the Vanguard, watching through the viewport as the dawn broke over her home planet, the sun casting golden light on the scars of warships and the glittering debris orbiting peacefully around them. The bridge was quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos that had reigned just hours before. Her crew, though exhausted, shared glances of relief and muted celebration. They had done more than survive. They had delivered a message to the galaxy. Earth was not a relic of the past, but a force of the present. Captain, Admiral Creel is requesting a ceasefire and wishes to discuss terms, Lieutenant Harrow announced, breaking the silence. His voice was steady, but his eyes were tired, mirroring the strain they all felt. Alara turned from the viewport, her gaze settling on the faces of her loyal crew. "Open a channel," she said, her voice firm. "Let's see what terms he's considering acceptable now." The screen flickered to life, revealing Admiral Zan Creel, his expression controlled but his eyes betraying a spark of respect. "Captain Miles," he began, nodding slightly, "you have proven your point and your prowess. The Draconis Federation sees no benefit in continuing hostilities. We propose a ceasefire and suggest a summit to discuss a peaceful resolution." Alara considered his words, her mind racing through the possible implications. "Admiral, Earth accepts your ceasefire. We also agree to the summit, but know this, any agreement must respect Earth's sovereignty and our right to participate in galactic affairs as equals." Creel inclined his head in acknowledgement. "Agreed, Captain. We will arrange the details and await your delegation." As the transmission ended, Alara turned back to the viewport, her thoughts on the future. The battle was over, but the journey to secure Earth's place in the galaxy was just beginning. In the weeks that followed, delegations from across the galaxy arrived on Earth. The planet buzzed with activity, not just of warships, but of diplomatic vessels. The summit was held at the United Nations, restored for this historic occasion, under the watchful eyes of Earth's newly formed Galactic Relations Department. Alara, now a key figure in the diplomatic circuit, worked tirelessly. The summit was a delicate dance of negotiations, with each system pressing for its interests. Earth's rich history and sudden resurgence made it a wild card that many feared or coveted. The treaties forged were comprehensive. Earth would re-enter the galaxy as a sovereign entity with its territories respected. Trade agreements were established, and Earth was granted access to technological advancements it had missed during its isolation, ensuring it would not be left behind again. As the summit concluded, Alara stood before the assembly, delivering a speech that would be broadcast across the galaxy. "Today, we stand together not as adversaries but as architects of a new galaxy, one where knowledge, respect, and mutual prosperity guide us rather than suspicion and might. Let us go forward together, as equals." The applause was thunderous, echoing through the hall and across the galaxy via live feeds. Earth had returned, not through conquest but through cooperation, and the galaxy was better for it. Back on the Vanguard, now docked at Earth's International Space Station, Alara allowed herself a moment of quiet as she gazed at the planet below. It was beautiful, serene, and vibrant, unmarred by the scars of conflict that had raged around it. Her communicator beeped, a message from General Harn, now a close advisor. "Well done, Alara. Enjoy the peace. You've earned it." Alara smiled, her heart light for the first time in months. "Thank you, General. It's time to rebuild." As she turned off the communicator, the sun dipped below the Earth's horizon, casting a warm glow that seemed to promise a bright future. The Vanguard stood ready, a sentinel in the silence of space, guarding a world reborn in hope and determination.